you were mentioning using Axelar. So I want to know more about, there's dozens of different bridges, interoperability protocols on the market today, and wanted to know what was your, deciding factors that ultimately led you to the choice of going with Axelar.
Yeah, good question. I'd say there's three main pieces.
Alrighty, what is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another CYPRX video breakdown. In today's video, I'm going to be showing you guys why I added the digital asset XLR to my portfolio and why I firmly believe that when the utility super cycle kicks off and real utility takes over, XLR is going to be a key driver of that cycle as we head into 2025 and beyond. So sit back, relax, and enjoy some of the video clips and the fundamentals that I have to share with you all today. All information that goes relatively unnoticed to the mainstream and not a lot of people are talking about. Showing you guys devil is in the details. If you enjoy these video breakdowns, do us a favor, smash that thumbs up button and subscribe. Remember, none of this is financial advice. So we're going to kick it off and start it with a post that XLR had made on their X profile. And this is literally just from the other day. This is from yesterday. Okay. They reposted a Trade Talk episode that took place back on September 3rd. Now, this is very interesting. I want you guys to pay attention to some details. This goes on to say, from XLR, there is tons of regulations for how banks and other financial institutions need to keep financial data private. And it is a video clip of Jason Rozovsky, the head of legal at Interop Labs. Now, I want to pause right there. If you're not too familiar with who actually was the initial developer of the XLR network, Interop Labs, you can see here on their website, we are building an interconnected future of Web3. Interop Labs is the initial developer of the XLR network. Just to show you guys some of this gentleman's credentials, okay? Jason Rozovsky, head of legal at Interop Labs. Let's look at his credentials here. His experience, he was the global legal lead of blockchain at Accenture for 3 years. That's a massive role to play, considering that Accenture is a leading organization that helps governmental entities with digital transformation. He also worked at R3 for 5 years. And if we click show all experience, you can also see that he was a legal intern at the New York State Department of Financial Services and a legal intern at the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission. So we're going to take a second and we're going to just listen to some of the panelists on this Trade Talks platform, this broadcast that took place. And this is going to tie into some of the information that we've previously shared on, literally, as a matter of fact, I'm going to jump to this. It says it right on the XLR website. XLR connects public and private blockchains over flexible, fully transparent infrastructure that scales to secure billions of dollars in millions of transactions. It's literally in plain sight for people to see. And when I'm going to piece all this together for you all, considering XLR's partnerships, especially with Onyx by JP Morgan, and something that a JP Morgan representative, i.e. Tyrone Lobin, if I'm pronouncing his name correctly, said on a previous panel discussion on how they're building out the infrastructure right now in order to drag and drop from private blockchain networks to public blockchain networks in the near future, and how they're partnering with XLR and how they're on the verge of announcing something massive with XLR. It is all going to play into today's video breakdown. So stick around for the entirety of this, okay? But I just wanted to show you that it literally says that directly on the website. And that's something, honestly, that having done research on XLR kind of flew over my head that I had to full circle back to, okay? Which is, again, why I'm making this video breakdown for you guys. So let's tap in. I'm going to play 2 video clips. One's going to be a short one where the gentleman's talking about the opportunity that is set to unfold between now and 2025 and beyond. And then I'm going to play a little bit of a longer video clip where they go on to talk about how they built XLR and so on and so forth, and how they're solving a real world problem. So just take a second and let's listen to what they have to say here.
Increases in capacity and the ability to compute, and obviously this is driven by a lot of CapEx. We're really seeing just a chart up and to the right in terms of adoption and what is possible. And so within finance, we're starting to see multi-bulge LLMs emerge, where big firms are taking historical written research, millions of reports. And I think the big question that remains is, what do you marry that with? And ultimately, you need to marry it with clean data. So I think right now, 23, as I've said, was kind of a play with the new toys year. 24 is like, let's build some tools, and 25 is really, let's get a return. Let's implement those tools, let's roll them out and see if we can generate some revenue on them and help our clients generate their revenue. But it's evolving really quickly. I think where we sit today is a lot of confusion and a lot of opportunity. And I think you really have to kind of cut through the noise and figure out, how am I going to leverage something that actually generates revenue?
Right. Cutting through the noise, massive opportunities, 2023, 2024, building years, 2025, deploying years, and year for revenue generation. All right. He's talking about the bull run cycle. He's talking about exponential growth. He even mentioned that this market has grown exponential. All right. And people are sleeping on what is about to happen, especially when regulations come in and these financial institutions get the green light to onboard into this digital asset ecosystem. I don't really think people can even fathom what is going to happen, the amount of liquidity that is about to come on chain. And I want you all to listen to what he says, because he mentions partnering or working with JP Morgan. And this is, again, that individual representative, the legal lead at Interop Labs.
Yeah, and Jason, when you think about it from the privacy perspective, because you are bringing in new technologies like blockchain as an example, I mean, there's a number of emerging tech that we're talking about at the table here right now. Transaction privacy and data privacy, and being able to leverage this in a way that's meaningful, and of course, financial services, a heavily regulated space. How are you marrying all this together?
Yeah, so at Interop Labs, we built this network called the Axelar network, which is built for interoperability. And I think, realistically, what financial institutions care about, at least from the blockchain perspective and probably from every perspective, is data privacy, right? And it's probably two main reasons. The first is competitive, right? They don't want everyone to know their balances on their own accounts, right? And so, how do you solve for that with the idea that the purpose of blockchain is for it to be a kind of a public ledger that everybody could take a look at, right? The second is obviously regulatory, right? There's tons of regulations, on how banks and other financial institutions need to keep their client data private, right? And so that's why historically banks have been, and at least many financial institutions have been looking at private blockchain instances, right? Situations that are kind of walled gardens, intranet-like environments. And so what we've been doing at Axelar is trying to, show the world that there's another way to do it, right? And frankly, interoperability is the way where you can have a private network, right? You can connect it to other networks, other private networks, other public networks, right? And then have that ability to move assets across. And one example I'll give is, we're part of the Monetary Authority of Singapore's Project Guardian. Right. And so we've done work with JP Morgan as an example. We're doing work with Deutsche Bank today. And they're all looking to see, how do you actually move assets and use an interoperability layer like Axelar to move assets from one private instance of a network to either a public or a private network.
That statement right there on this Trade Talks broadcast was absolutely massive. And it goes hand in hand with the remainder of the video clips that I'm going to share with you guys. So again, buckle up your seatbelts, because they're telling you guys that XLR is the chosen one. So check this out. And even Ripple themselves have openly stated this, and I can play that video clip as well from Jazzy Cooper.
And I wanted to know, what was your deciding factors that ultimately led you to the choice of going with Axelar?
Yeah, good question. I'd say there's three main pieces, which are security, connectivity, and innovation.
So check this out, okay? Here you have the co-founder of the XLR network mentioning that he is excited for real-world asset tokenization. Just take a second. I'm going to play this video clip, and then we're going to roll through some other ones. Listen to what he says here.
Are there particular verticals that you're excited about or interested in within the crypto ecosystem? Like, for example, consumer applications, DeFi, RWA, gaming, etc.?
Yeah, so I think RWA is, pretty exciting, right? I think, we do need to solve a lot of inefficiency issues with RWAs in the real world. And I think blockchain technology as the primitive allows us to do that, right?
So I just wanted to play him mentioning that he's excited about RWAs. Now, this is from 7 months ago, has 156 views. Fast forward to a more recent broadcast that took place with Ripple's Jazzy Cooper, head of DeFi development, James from Interop Labs, XLR, and Rudy, Multi-Chain Nation. Listen to what James says here about RWAs. Keep in mind everything that this gentleman just mentioned about connecting public and private blockchains together through their interoperability mechanism through XLR All right. This is all going to freaking blow your mind. Keep in mind now that the gentleman, the co-founder, just mentioned real world asset tokenization. And listen to what James here says again.
This is going to be a huge opportunity for us to tokenize new real world assets and then distribute them to the rest of those, ecosystems that we're working with now. So a huge opportunity for us to tokenize new real world assets and then distribute them to the rest of those, ecosystems that we're working with now. So that's certainly on the very concrete, tangible side, looking at that. And we're very much interested to see where the larger financial institutional space moves, how quickly they're able to find comfort to really tokenize, certain portfolios of assets. But publicly, you can take a look, look at what JP Morgan did with Project Guardian and take a look at what Deutsche Bank is doing now with Project Guardian. And the work that they're doing with Axelar will be presented in November. So kind of wait for them to share a little bit more about what they're testing in this proof of concept. But this stuff is, we're on the precipice. We are finally getting the pieces of infrastructure in that we're really moving forward. And so I think that we're very excited about it.
So I'll pause it right there. He mentions what they're testing behind the scenes, JP Morgan, Deutsche Bank, and how it's going to be announced in November and how we're on the precipice of something massive. Now, again, this just came out 9 days ago. Ripple posted this, a panel discussion between David Schwartz and the CTO of Axelar, and listen to what he says about how eventually this market will be worth trillions.
But we're still the only one, right? And I think it's because from day one, we understood it's going to be a hard problem, and we understood there's going to be eventually trillions of dollars at stake, right? And
so we heard the CTO of Axelar mentioning trillions of dollars. Keep in mind, just a couple of days ago, that this gentleman mentioned connecting public and private blockchains, how they worked with JP Morgan, how they work with Deutsche Bank, and how Axelar is that bridging solution, right?
How are you marrying all this together?
Yeah, so at INTEROP Labs, we built this network called the Axelar network, which is built for interoperability. And I think, realistically, what financial institutions care about, at least from the blockchain perspective and probably from every perspective, is data privacy, right? And it's probably two main reasons. The first is competitive, right? They don't want everyone to know their balances on their own accounts, right? And so, how do you solve for that with the idea that the purpose of blockchain is for it to be a kind of a public ledger that everybody could take a look at, right? The second is obviously regulatory, right? There's tons of regulations, on how banks and other financial institutions need to keep their client data private, right? And so that's why historically banks have been, and at least many financial institutions have been looking at private blockchain instances, right? Situations that are kind of walled gardens, intranet-like environments. And so what we've been doing at Axelar is trying to, show the world that there's another way to do it, right? And frankly, interoperability is the way where you can have a private network, right? You can connect it to other networks, other private networks, other public networks, right? And then have that ability to move assets across. And one example I'll give is, we're part of the Monetary Authority of Singapore's Project Guardian. Right. And so we've done work with JP Morgan as an example. We're doing work with Deutsche Bank today. And they're all looking to see how do you actually move assets and use an interoperability layer like Axelar to move assets from one private instance of a network to either a public or a private network.
Yeah.
Then this gentleman mentioned just a couple of days ago, sitting on a panel discussion with head of DeFi product at Ripple, that they're on the cusp, on the precipice of announcing something absolutely massive. All right. I'm going to backtrack to when Jazzy Cooper mentioned that they chose Axelar. All right. But keeping in mind what I just read to you guys on the Axelar homepage about how they connect public and private blockchains over flexible, fully transparent infrastructure that scales secure billions of dollars and millions of transactions. Do you all remember what Tyrone Lobin said 10 months ago on stage at this Mainnet 2023? Listen to what he says, because now this makes so much sense to what it is that they're building, what it is that they're testing, and what's about to happen. This just confirms trillions of dollars are about to flood into public blockchains. Listen to what he says here.
Give us some history about and perspective of the transition from private institutional blockchains to maybe more public, or what you guys are using today. And Eric, I know you have really interesting opinions on where that's going to go in the future.
Yeah, and maybe I can just provide a little bit of context in terms of just the traditional financial services market and how we think about the requirements really to be able to operate a safe and sound system. So JP Morgan processes about $10 trillion of payments every day. That's 400 times the global stablecoin daily volume. The global FX market is about $5 trillion. And so when we think about utilizing blockchains as a settlement layer, we need the infrastructure to actually support these volumes, and we need them to support the, the scale that the traditional financial services market is at. So right now, clearly, there are a number of reasons, both technological-wise, but also regulatory-wise, as to why we have to use permissioned blockchains. However, you can think about these, globally ever-present, always up, highly redundant public blockchains as a really, really attractive settlement layer that can, service this global market. However, until we actually solve some of the key challenges, specifically around privacy, specifically around things like AML, KYC, it does become difficult for us to fully step into that environment. We did a project last year with the Monetary Authority of Singapore where we demonstrated what it would actually look like for a regulated institution like ourselves to utilize public DeFi protocols, to utilize public blockchains. And very clearly, there were lots of very insightful learnings for us. The transparency that you get around DeFi pools, for example, the ability to have anytime price discovery through a DeFi protocol, very, very important and interesting. Also the lower cost. But as I said, until we actually have some clarity around the ability to actually operate on this infrastructure from a reg perspective, we're going to have to be in the sort of permission view until we can take some of the hybrid steps. And those hybrid steps look like some of the existing infrastructure that is coming out right now around subnets or permission zones or these kinds of things. And from our perspective, the reason why we operate an EVM sidechain is so that everything that we build can actually be portable into a public environment. So all of our contracts are written in Solidity. We use ERC20s for the most part for our tokens. All of our developer tooling is, utilizes the public Ethereum ecosystem's tooling set. So actually moving into the public blockchain environment when we can will be much of a sort of a lift and drop scenario.
Boom. It is all starting to make so much sense. So you heard this gentleman just talk about how they tested this with the Monetary Authority of Singapore. This is, again, Tyrone Lobban from JP Morgan, right? How they tested financial institutions like ourselves, JP Morgan, coming into the public blockchain environment. He said $10 trillion a freaking day, people. Okay. Are you all seeing what I'm showing you guys right now? I really hope you are. This gentleman on Trade Talks broadcast just the other day, this is from September 3rd, 2024, mentioned this same exact thing. And he confirmed that Axelar was a part of this. Then you heard the CTO on stage with David Schwartz mention that they prepared this for trillions of dollars. They knew that that was going to happen, right? And you're starting to see, again, what Axelar was built for, okay? Axelar connects public and private blockchains over flexible, fully transparent infrastructure that scales secure billions of dollars and millions of transactions. So I hope you guys are starting to see pieces of the puzzle. As always, none of this is financial advice, but it's all starting to make sense as time progresses. This is, again, just an insightful video breakdown as to why it is that I'm adding Axelar to my long-term bull run portfolio bag. This is not a get-rich-quick investment for myself. I will probably be holding this digital asset for the utility super cycle that is yet to come, for years away. Not saying that it's going to take years, but when the regulatory environment is clear, when financial institutions are comfortable onboarding into the space, that is what I'm holding this digital asset for. Tap into this kind of research. The vast majority of video clips that I share with you guys today go relatively unnoticed. And with that being said, make sure that you're subscribed, give this video a thumbs up, and I'll see you all in the next video breakdown.